I've decided to go live because I've been trying to make a video about language learning reviews and making new goals for the next year. So it's the end of the year now, and everybody's setting goals and reviewing what they've done over the last year. So I thought I would try to make a video on this. And I didn't have much success trying to record myself speaking, so I thought I'll just go live, and then if there's any questions, you can ask me. If anybody actually watches, I don't know. I don't even know if I've pressed the right button to go live. I'm not the most technical of people, so you'll have to forgive me. Meanwhile, I've been dabbling around with my bookshelves here, and let me just adjust this. I've managed to tidy up this side of the bookshelves and make this look a lot worse. So this is good, this is bad. So it's a bit like review and setting goals, actually. This is probably review. No, hopefully that's review. Anyway, this year I've been learning Mandarin, Polish and Kurdish Sorani as my 3 languages. I don't always learn 3 languages. I don't always learn a couple. You know, it's just random, really. My life is pretty random. And what makes me inspired towards learning languages in the first place is that I work in a shop and I have the opportunity to meet lots of customers from around the world. So I'm really lucky that I meet lots of Polish people and Hungarian and Russian, Chinese from all over the world. So that's quite good. And last year I decided to learn Kurdish and Polish because we have a lot of Polish customers, and my hairdresser or barber, or whatever you want to call him, is Kurdish, although I haven't had my hair cut for ages from him because of the pandemic and lockdown and so on. So just to let you know, at the moment, I've gone back into lockdown again, and I live in Portsmouth. So the UK has a tier system for those of you watching outside of UK, and I'm in the top tier, which is number 4. So it's the most dangerous zone. We have had a lot of rise in cases of COVID lately, and we've had a new strain of COVID appear in this country. So COVID has rapidly increased in my area, but my area is like a small pocket in the south of England, and the rest of the zone 4 is in London and the counties around there. So our area is a bit strange because when you go out of the area, there are police blockades questioning you whether why you want to go into zone 3. So this is good because it shows that we're not able to move around and spread the disease so much. So I'm at home on furlough again. So I've had about 4 months of furlough this year, which has been good because it's made me learn a lot more languages. It hasn't been good, obviously, for the business because I work in a charity and we've lost out on fundraising things. Our shops have been covered by the government with furlough wages, so that's some kind of compensation, but obviously we've had to close down a few shops, and luckily mine wasn't one of them. My shop was flooded during the first lockdown, actually, so it meant that repair needed to be done and my shop wasn't open until much later. But I found other work to do meanwhile, or they found me work to do actually in my charity, which was good. So language learning wise, I have improved on each of the 3 languages, although my Chinese I started learning in 2019, about February 2019, beginning of the Chinese New Year last year, and I did most of my language learning last year. So this year for me, the Chinese has all been about maintaining that language and improving it slowly by adding things. So I've been watching films, I've been doing Pimsleur lessons, so I've managed to do the whole 1 to 5 levels of Pimsleur, which is great, and I've done them again sometime. I'm having trouble speaking actually, because where I've tried to make a video before, I've been talking for a couple of hours, which is okay. I'm used to talking a lot. And my Chinese has been more about maintaining this year rather than actually making huge progress. But I feel like all that practicing I've been doing by maintaining the language and actually speaking to some natives as well, which has been good, has been a good way of adding on and building up my confidence in the language. So I feel like I can speak a lot more now than I could this time a year ago. And I can recognise a lot more characters than I used to. So that's good. The other languages I've been learning are Kurdish and Polish. And the Polish I started learning the previous year as well, last year, but I didn't really do much with it. So mostly I've started really learning properly in about May this year. I set myself a challenge earlier in May to learn the 3 languages. And I used to make a lot of videos with those 3 languages. I had a lot of time in those days. I bought myself quite a few resources for Polish. So I have, let's see if I can find them here. This has been a great book for me. I haven't actually started this one yet, but I've got Po Polsku 1, which is like an exercise book, and it comes with a CD. And you work through the exercises here. And the exercises are themed on grammar or, gender exercises or case endings, this kind of thing. But they're quite good exercises and interesting. I have also another book which I haven't started yet, which is this one. It's got here B2, so I don't know if that's level B2. It was probably a bit hard for me. It's aimed at 11 to 14-year-olds, this book, and I think this is something to look at next year. So this is on my plan for next year, to work through this book by the end of the year. Kurdish, I haven't really made as much progress as I would have liked to, but I've really started focusing on this language recently in the last couple of months. So I've been doing Glossica, and Glossica is an app where you listen to repetitions of sentences over and over again. So it's based on something called spaced repetition. And I've been doing this for a couple of months now. I think it's since the beginning of November. And I've built up 10,000 reps, over 10,000. So a rep is the number of times that you've listened to a phrase. So I've listened to phrases repeatedly in Kurdish, and it's been quite boring actually, because this program is a boring program. It's the content is brilliant. So the way the words are presented to you and the phrases build up on what you already know, and they add words and different grammar variations here and there. So that's good, because it's good to learn something as an additional rather than from fresh. So you learn new words every day, new phrases, and those phrases are kind of familiar in a way. It might be a new grammar thing introduced, but the vocabulary is what you've already know. So the content is good, but it's actually quite boring because it's very, very repetitive. There's no variation in the program, like visually. They use one person's voice all the way through. So you can change the target language actually. So if you're an English native speaker, you can change the target language from English US to English UK for a bit of variation. But I don't actually like the English UK voice because it's softer and the American one is a bit louder. So I prefer the American one because it's clearer. Having said that, I've tried to make Glossica more interesting by taking the content myself of these phrases and writing them down and adding my own vocabulary in. So substituting a noun every now and then, or trying to kind of bespoke the phrase to my, what I need. So the phrases are quite useful actually. I mean, for example, I don't know, like Chotrik Legal Hosh something or other, or Stiklan or Chomaya, which means I've got something in my eye. And then, so when you learn Shtik Lenor Chomaya, so Shtik is something, Lenor means inside or in, and Chomaya is eye, my eye. So Lenor features in other sentences later on. So you already know that Lenore can mean inside or in something. So it's quite useful the way these little pieces are repeated throughout the different phrases. You get to kind of know the language by repeating lots of the same thing but in different variations. So this is quite good, but it's boring, I'm sorry to say. There's no testing facility, so when you're presented with the new phrases or the repeat phrases that you review, they're done in the same manner each time, and there's no testing of them to see how well you've done with them. So you're just given them and you have to do something with them yourself. So you could actually play it in the background and walk away and come back having not heard it, and the program will think that you've developed and that you've built up all these reps. So it's a good first thing in the morning when I wake up. Sometimes I put it on when I'm still in bed, and it's like 4 or 5 in the morning because my partner gets up early and I've got a funny, weird sleeping pattern anyway. And sometimes it sends me back to sleep. So isn't maybe not a good way to do it, but anyway, that's Glossica. So those are my 3 languages, and I want to continue with them next year. But for someone who is passionate about multilingualism, I want to call myself a polyglot. I'm a bit scared of calling myself a polyglot because a couple of months ago I saw a video on YouTube about people being fake polyglots, and the opinion was that you can say that you can speak all these different languages, but can you really speak them to any degree of fluency? Well, I agree that you could be duped into thinking that somebody speaks a language very well. If you don't know that language yourself and you're hearing them speak it, you think, oh, they're proficient at that language. Well, I don't claim to be proficient in any of the languages I speak. I make mistakes, and I've got a few languages which I speak better, like French, Spanish, and Italian. Sometimes Russian, although my Russian has gone very rusty. And my Arabic should be better because the amount of hours I've put in learning it over the years. But I have to be in the right frame of mind to speak it. It's weird, but French, Spanish, and Italian, maybe I can say I'm at the B level, maybe, or maybe even C with French. No, probably B2. Don't know. Who cares? I'm not judging myself anyway. I just learn languages to be able to speak with as many people as possible. So with this in mind, I started thinking about all the different languages that I've ever tried to learn and the ones that I've dabbled in and not really done very much with. And I made a list of all the languages that I've ever tried to learn, and it amounted to 27, which is crazy because I don't speak 27 languages. And some of those languages I just learned for a few weeks, and I learned a few phrases. I might have worked with somebody from a country who taught me loads of different phrases. So, for example, I learned some Swedish just because I have a few Swedish resources here. I've got this Swedish course, which is just a load of phrases, basically. It's like a phrase book. And I've got some Pimsleur lessons in Swedish. And I used to work with a few Swedish people. So, although in those days they never taught me any Swedish, so I learnt some Swedish phrases. I did some Croatian as a 3-month challenge for the polyglot conference I went to 2 years ago in Ljubljana. So I learned some. Oh, got hiccups. Sorry, it's all the fast talking. I learned some Croatian for that, and that was a 3-month challenge. And I didn't do any Croatian afterwards, so it's all gone. I've forgotten it all. But I've got some Croatian books here, and on the Polyglot Conference this year, which was online, there was a Bosnian, Croatian, Macedonian thing, a talking session thing, which I went to, and it was for an hour, and I was the first person to arrive, and the teacher there said, hello. I've actually forgotten how to say hello, zdravo. And all I can remember was Zovinci Andy, and I watched the other people. I listened to the other people speaking as more and more people came into the group. There were about 10 people, and some of the people were speaking more than others. And about half an hour into the group, I started thinking, oh God, I've started remembering some Croatian. And it was literally about 55 minutes into the group. The thing lasted an hour and it was 5 minutes to go. And I suddenly wanted to say all these things in Croatian that I remembered, and it was time to go. So you have to maintain languages to keep them fluent. You will forget languages if you don't use them. So 27 languages is just crazy. I know some hyper polyglots like Richard Simcott, Tim Keeley, and a few others who can maintain all those languages, and they've learnt those languages to a degree of proficiency so that they won't forget. And obviously I haven't done that with any of these languages. So a few languages I've dabbled in, I've been looking at them and thinking, would I like to revisit those languages? Do I need to revisit them? Would they be useful? So I've kind of come up with this point system in my mind of that the language has to be useful and it has to be interesting to me. So I have to be passionate about it, and it has to be something that I want to learn. So I put all these languages into a kind of, I wrote them all down on a piece of paper, and I put the ones which I know to a certain level. So that was French, Italian, and Spanish over to the side. And those are languages that I'd like to continue to maintain. So by watching films, by maybe learning another language through that language, which is called laddering, by the way, doing that. And then there are certain languages that I've spent a lot of time on, but haven't really got very proficient in. So included in that group were Arabic and Kurdish. And those are two languages that I still want to learn at some stage in the future. And Kurdish I will continue to learn next year. I'm just going to continue learning with Glossika, and I hope to make progress in that. Then there were a group of languages that I just dabbled with. So there was like Twi, Swedish. I need to look at my bookshelf to remind myself. Romanian and Cantonese, for example. So those languages I studied a little bit for a few months or a few weeks, and I can say a few stock phrases in. So like Cantonese, for example, I was making a bit of progress with that, and then I changed it to Mandarin, and that's all gone now. So if I wanted to come back to it in the future, I will do one day. But for the moment, all those languages are on the back burner, and I need to choose like one of them rather than a few of them. Then there were a group of languages that I've made a little bit more progress with, and I've dabbled in and out of. And one of those languages is Hungarian. And I feel like I've put a fair amount of effort into Hungarian, but I've never stayed with it. It's one of those languages that I've tried learning a little bit, and I've never, ever really ever stuck with it. So I'm going to do that now. That's my new goal for 2021, is to learn some Hungarian. So I mentioned earlier about those three languages that I'm more proficient at, French, Italian, and Spanish. And the Spanish and Italian always confuse me with each other. I mean, I can speak both. And if I've been speaking a lot of Italian, then if I try to speak Spanish, the Italian infiltrates into Spanish and vice versa. So I found myself a teacher who can help me with several things that I want to do, which is fantastic. And I've mentioned him in a previous video. His name is Carlos. He's from Colombia. So he's a Spanish native speaker, and he is proficient in Italian. He lived in Italy for several years, and he teaches Italian. He is posing himself on Italki as a Hungarian teacher. So he's lived in Hungary for 5 years as well. So this is perfect for me because he doesn't speak any English, or at least I don't know if he speaks English, but I've had 4 lessons with him already for Spanish, and the idea was that I wanted to try to see if I could maintain my Spanish, or to bring my Spanish up to a level, get the rust out of it basically. And I wanted to choose somebody who knows Italian very well, so they can tell me when I'm speaking Italian and not Spanish, and they can correct me from one to the other. But I also want to learn Hungarian, so I'm going to be learning Hungarian through Spanish. And in this way, it's like 2 for the price of 1 language learning, because I'll be learning a new language through one that I know already. So I say I know Spanish. Many years ago, about 20 years ago, I took loads of exams in Spanish, and I reached a very good level of Spanish. And I sat this grueling exam where you had to debate in all the different tenses you could think of. You had to use a subjunctive, the future, conditional, and all these different things. And the exam was a long exam. It was all held in Spanish, and I sat through that and I came top. I beat my results in French actually, and I thought my French was better than my Spanish. So I've got it in here somewhere. I've learned Spanish to a good level, but I've just never ever maintained it. And other than watching films every now and then or trying to read a book, so my Spanish is very rusty. But these 4 lessons I had with Carlos have been very good, in that I felt my Spanish come back and develop, and I've started watching Spanish TV series on Netflix. I've started to just go back to Duolingo to see how my Spanish is with that, and just basically maintain it really. So that's been really good for me. So 2021 for me is Hungarian, continue with Kurdish, continue with Polish, and continue with Chinese. But I'm not worried about progressing, hugely with my Chinese. I just want to let it drift along and maintain what I already know. If I've got a conversational level enough for the people who come into the shop, then that's great. And then if I learn more and more things, I will be learning more in my shop anyway, because I have a Chinese volunteer. She's a Mandarin native speaker, and she has been a great teacher already for me. And I met her in the shop because I spoke some Cantonese with her a few years ago, and she came into the shop and said, I'd like to volunteer. And first of all, she was trying to teach me more Cantonese. And I thought her Cantonese sounds a bit strange. It wasn't like the Cantonese I'd heard from other people, and it's because she's from Beijing, but she'd lived in the south of China. So she learned Cantonese herself, having moved to the south, and her Cantonese was a different dialect to like the Hong Kong Cantonese. So that was great. And then when I found out a few times later of meeting her that she was actually a Mandarin speaker, I was like, right, I'm going to learn Mandarin now. So that's why I started learning Mandarin. And we have some shops nearby my shop where I work, Chinese shops. So I go in there sometimes and try and speak a bit of Mandarin, and everybody is always amazed, even though my Mandarin isn't very good, because I don't know, it seems like a novelty thing when a Westerner tries to speak Mandarin or Cantonese, that everyone goes, wow, you're so good. But people learn languages all the time, so why should it be such an amazing thing? I don't understand it really. A few languages I haven't mentioned that were on that list were German and Russian. My German and Russian are 2 languages also that are very, very rusty. I learnt German at school, and I learnt German, I kind of dabbled around with it in the 90s, like I did with Arabic as well. And then I started learning Russian about 3 years ago. I don't know exactly when it was, but I learnt it for a chunk of time. And I think my Russian accent is quite good, but my grammar is really bad. It sucks, as it does with all my Slavic languages, actually. And having learned some Polish now, that's sort of confused me with Russian. So when I first returned to the shop this time, I spoke Russian on the first day and Polish, and I spoke Russian with a Lithuanian lady. I spoke Russian with my Polish volunteer, who I spoke Polish with as well, but her English isn't great and my Polish isn't great. So we sometimes use Russian to, if we can't think of how to explain something, and sometimes that works. That's why I'm a language dabbler, you see, because of my shop I work in. It's very distracting. All these people from all over the world coming in and teaching me something in Swahili and something in the language of Fijian, and it's really, my head hurts sometimes. So this year I've also been learning some juggling manoeuvres. Where's my balls? I've lost one of my balls. I've got two. I might have to do a Rubik's Cube then, because I moved my Rubik's Cubes from up here. Oops. With a view to putting them somewhere on show. I love puzzles, by the way. I can do the Rubik's Cube in about 2 minutes, no quicker than that. But I've joined loads of speed cubing groups on Facebook, and I often watch them and watch all these youngsters, doing it in 5 seconds and 12 seconds. I think my record is about 43 seconds, but that's doing it very lumpily, and it was lucky probably because I had some of the things already there. Juggling wise, I can do about 8 different manoeuvres now, and I've been trying to learn the windmill, which has been doing my brain in because I just can't get it. But I'm getting there. It's almost there, and now I've started trying to learn it going around the other way, and that's making my head hurt because it's like completely weird going the opposite direction. I found a few new juggling YouTube channels which are great, so I tend to watch Taylor Tries, and that's I'm going to put the link below after this video. Taylor Tries is in the USA, and she has been juggling since the age of about 14. I don't know how old she is now, maybe in her 20s, or I better not say any more than that because you shouldn't really say a woman's age, should you? And she does some really good juggling tutorials, and she breaks it down into sort of easy step-by-step maneuvers. So I've learned some of the juggling maneuvers from her channel. I found a new channel lately. I don't know what it's called, but it's another female juggler, and she does lots of juggling exercises. So rather than the actual juggling maneuvers, she does things like, things like this, going backwards and forwards to help you get the muscle memory for the certain moves that you need to make for juggling patterns, So I don't think I've had any watchers. I haven't seen anybody pop up. And I wanted to make this video about setting my language learning goals for next year. So my language learning goals are to continue with Kurdish. I'm not setting a time frame on this. I just want to continue until I feel fluent enough to be able to have some level of conversation and to be able to think in Kurdish. To continue with Polish as well, but at the moment Polish is on the back burner in favour of Kurdish. But because I became a Patreon to Easy Polish's YouTube channel, that spurs me on to notifies me to go on there every month when I make the payment. That makes me go on there, and they send me worksheets every now and then. So being a patron of that site is really good because I get transcriptions of the videos, and you get worksheets as well to do with the videos. So occasionally, I look at a video and I revise it and work through the video with the transcript and the vocabulary sheet and the worksheet, which is quite good, useful. I've been watching a TV series in Polish. I only just started, and I can't even remember what it's called. It's a crime thing. I'm not really into crime, but there's not much choice on Netflix when you've got the Netflix for language extension. I'll put the link below for that, by the way, as well, because that's quite a good extension to have. Netflix for language extension is something you can put on your PC or your phone. I have a Chromebook, so it works on there very well. And you click on the extension, and it takes you to a catalogue. So you can type in your language, target language that you're learning, and then you type in your location, and it shows you all the different TV series or films that are available for that language learning for where you are. So the only disappointing thing is that because I tend to learn smaller languages, so next year when I'm going to be learning Hungarian, there's no Netflix for language extension on Hungarian and for the UK. So I need to find Hungarian TV programs that have subtitles, but they won't have this extension on them. So let me explain what the extension does. The extension helps you to look at the subtitles, and you can scroll the mouse over any one time. And if you want me to make a video about this, please give me a comment below, and I'll make a video on this later, because I know there have been lots of Netflix videos popping up lately on YouTube to do with language learning, but I don't know if they've been about this Netflix with the language extension. So anyway, you scroll the mouse across, and you can scroll it over a word, and then the word will come up with a translation into English. So I found it really useful, particularly in Spanish. For example, I've been watching a Spanish TV series called Siempre Bruja, which means simply a witch. And I've watched, I think, 9 episodes so far. And the first episode I watched with Spanish and English subtitles. And now I just watch it with Spanish subtitles. And if there's something I don't understand, I'll scroll the mouse over and the English will come up. So that's really useful. And if you scroll at the top of the side of the screen where you have all the subtitles listed, so you've got all the ones that you've just seen and all the ones that you're about to hear, if you scroll it over one of these phrases, it will translate the whole phrase for you. The other good thing is that you can click on the print button on the top right, and a new tab will open up, and that whole transcription for the episode or the film that you're watching will come up with the English and the other language. I'm not sure if you can change the source language from English to something else. I'm pretty sure you can, because it's an international thing. So I might try that when I'm doing Hungarian, like Spanish to Hungarian, maybe that might work for me. So the other thing I've been watching on Netflix is something called Ghost Bride. That's a Chinese one. And I've been trying to watch it without English subtitles with the Mandarin, but my Mandarin isn't as good as Spanish, obviously. So there's quite a few words I don't know. So I have to watch that with English subtitles as well. But it's interesting watching it, because in the last 2 years I've been learning Chinese, I do recognize quite a lot of the characters. And every now and then, with watching this on Netflix, you'll see a group of characters together that I know, but when they're positioned together, they mean something completely different in Chinese. So, for example, the one I always tell people is, for example, like the word for panda is da sheng mao, and da means big, xiong means bear, and mao means a cat. So it's like big, bear, cat, 3 words. So great thing about learning with Chinese is if you learn something that has 3 or 4 characters, you're learning not just that word as in the 4 characters, you're learning the individual characters as well. But sometimes when 2 characters go together, they can mean something completely different. Like, for example, Etienne, so E is 1, and Tien means time or day. So Etienne means like before, so it's like one time. So if you think of it, it's like one time guy. One time I was walking down the road. That's how you can remember Etienne as meaning before. So as I said, my plans for next year: Hungarian, Kurdish, Polish and Chinese. So that's 4 languages. It's really greedy, but I can't decide on which one to abandon, which one to do. There will be times in the year where I'll be focusing on one more than the other. Oh, and obviously maintaining Spanish as well through learning Hungarian. So what else can I say? It's the end of the year. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year. Stay safe, everybody. And I hope that you've had a good year. I mean, it's been difficult, but language learning wise, I hope you've managed to make progress in your language. Be interested to hear your comments below, and I'll be interested to know if you've already made any plans for next year. Are you going to learn a new language, or are you going to revisit a language that you've tried to learn before? Are you going to try something different in your language learning? Or are you going to be doing some juggling or playing the recorder or anything, taking up a new hobby? So I know it's been difficult to stay positive lately because of the pandemic, and everybody's anxiety levels have gone up, marriages have broken up, and all these stories I've heard of odd things that have happened to people. But I think in some ways it's been an opportunity to reflect a lot and to sort of go inwards in some ways. A lot of people have been on their own, and they've had a lot of time to think about things. And you can think about your relationships with people, your relationships with how you interact with different things. And for me, it's been like about how my relationship with language learning and the languages that I've learned previously. And do I call myself a polyglot? Do I call myself an avid language learner? These things are all just labels, aren't they, anyway? So anyway, stay safe, everybody, and I hope to see you soon in my next video. I don't think I've had any watchers in this, but, I'll just carry on talking to myself. And if you have enjoyed this video, please make some comments. And I'm really glad to say that now my subscribers have actually gone above 800. So this time last year, I was at 100 subscribers. So that's fantastic. And I know I've got some really good regular supporters like SK Languages, Professor X, April Monday, and Brian, if you're watching, get and learn some Polish, mate, if you've watched this video up to now. Speak to you soon. Take care.